We're here with Billy Luicci, TexAgs, the man himself. No one better covers Texas A&M than TexAgs, and Billy Luicci, you spearhead that thing. So really appreciate you coming by with us.
Absolutely. I'm when you asked me to come on, I was like, hell yeah, I love what you guys do. You know that, and y'all are just entertaining, man, and very, you can get a lot of information. You guys do great at interviewing the guests, but you keep it fun.
Yeah.
And I just love that. Like, especially in this league.
Yeah.
And it's so serious,
Absolutely.
and you got coaches wanting to kill each other, and fan bases going nuts, and you guys put yourself out there every week. And my thing is, for everyone that goes nuts and gripes and complains, there's hundreds of people that y'all are keeping informed and entertained every day. So keep it up. I just love the way. I love the way you guys have grown it from just literally the ground up, and it just, y'all are known throughout the SEC now. That ain't an easy thing to do.
That's not always a good thing either. It
is, though. It is. It is.
Absolutely.
You know that.
Absolutely. Well, hey, man, I'd love to talk about me all day long. But I did, we want to go back to last year, and we're going to go briefly. But it was not a successful season, clearly. But from your perspective, is that something you like? Or, obviously you like to win and everything like that. But, what I'm saying, everybody had their eyes on Texas A&M last year, and it felt like for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
So compared to this season, what is you've had successful seasons, bad seasons, just your perspective of how last year played out.
It's really interesting because really, I won't say all I know, but what I know is A&M football, not only A&M football, A&M sports. I understand like the Aggie psyche.
Yeah.
As you guys, when you just went to a school and then that's what you cover. I've seen it all, except the championships. I've seen it all, but it is Texas A&M sports teams always, and I think this goes back to just the Aggie and the blue collar, beginnings, the humble beginnings of the university, and everybody going off to war during the world wars and being an all male military for so long. They just Texas A&M teams seem to be at their best always when they feel disrespected or when they feel like there's a chip on the shoulder and there's something to prove. You go back to Billy Gillespie and some of those best A&M basketball teams. Buzz Williams these last couple of years when they're struggling in the non-conference and they make these runs, and even Buzz's rant last year when they didn't get into the tournament. And Aggie baseball a couple of years ago, they lose to Penn, a series to Penn, and then go to Omaha. When they're counted out, A&M sports teams seem to be at their best. I don't understand. I can't put my finger on why, but it's just been the case.
Yeah.
To lose 7 games last year, they were embarrassed. I know Jimbo was embarrassed in what happened on the field. I know the players, they come in every day. Connor Wigman is sitting there looking at the QB rankings. He's like, I don't pay attention to it, but I go, but you are keeping score. He's like, I am. You heard Anias this week.
Yeah.
I'm not happy they lost 7. That was painful to watch. But they were such a young team. I thought they were way overrated, and I think at 6, when you didn't return a starting quarterback, you had a very young O-line, and you were going to play 17 and 18-year-old true freshmen on the D-line. That ain't a winning formula in the SEC. I didn't think they'd go 5-7. I thought they should have been ranked in the top 15, not the top 6. The wheels fell off, and I do think a humbled and hungry A&M team should be much improved this year.
It feels like that's the theme, and one of the things that caught me with Jimbo in the big room the other day was the not just accountability from him. Obviously, that's what the head coach has got to say, but he was talking about these boys in the locker room.
Yeah.
And you're talking about the chip on the shoulder. So I feel like that's been kind of the narrative here is like, hey, it's time to put up or shut up.
Yeah. And it is, to your 6. And I'm not saying they have to go from 5 wins to winning the SEC or playing for it, but they have to matter in the SEC this year. They have to be relevant, and that includes big wins. That includes getting out of September intact at Miami, Auburn. Early. I think people are saying, well, you'd rather catch Hugh Freeze early than late. I kind of disagree. I think early is scarier because there's a lot of unknown, both with their personnel, what they're going to do. I think later teams start to figure them out. The depth catches up. Miami, Auburn, and Arkansas in September. If A&M, and they don't have to go 3-0 in those, they could go 2-1 and beat Alabama, and the whole thing changed. But if they do go 3-0, and I don't care if they're all by 1 point, and I don't care if Arkansas doinks one off the goalpost, and if they go 3-0, I believe they'll be the surprise team in the SEC, because I think they're just going to keep getting better, and I think they have depth. But, yeah, if they're good enough to win, I don't think those are great teams, but beat 3 dangerous teams, couple good teams maybe in September, I think they emerge as a surprise team in the league.
So I opened this event Monday morning. It was on TexAgs.
Yeah.
Between David Nuno and Ollie Buchanan, two of the best out there. And we were ready to bury the hatchet. And I was trying to get them going a little bit here. See if I can get you going. And no pushback here. It shocked me. I said, if Jimbo does not win 8 games this year, you have to fire his ass. And they didn't say yes.
Yeah.
But they didn't say no. And they said he has got to win. So what would you say to that?
Here's what I would say to that. 9 is
short of something crazy happening.
9 is my number where I say if they go 9-3, I'm not, hey, I'm really happy with 9 wins in your. But the bounce back, I'll say okay. And particularly, I kind of add that and win a bowl game. 10-3 from 5-7. If they go 10-2, they're playing in a New Year's Six. It's one of he'll be in contention for SEC.
That's about what I think they'll do. 10-2 this year.
If they do that, I think that would be a great year. And I think 9-3 with a bowl win. If you think about the path to get to 9, kind of a couple wins there he'd have to get. I'd be pretty excited. Say, okay, this thing worked. That would probably mean that the quarterback play was good. That would probably mean that the Bobby Petrino thing worked out. 8, I'll tell you this. I would be absolutely shocked. I would not at all expect them to fire him. And it's a contract thing there.
Yeah.
To me, I would be bitterly disappointed in like a 7-5. 8-4 doesn't do much for me. That's getting back to what A&M's kind of been since joining the – and I always argue with people like Longhorns. And, by the way, good luck with them. You're gonna. I got your back, but be right. Yeah, but A&M's been a good program since they joined the SEC. They hadn't been great, but they've been good. They had in 11 years they've had 2 top 5 finishes. They've won a Heisman. They've beaten Bama twice. They've won 3 of the last 5 against LSU. They have been a good program. I think they're the 5th out of 14 since they've joined.
Top half, no doubt.
But they haven't been great, and you hired Jimbo to be great. You built all these facilities to be great, and if you go by there today, they're building them $200 million more of it. So, yeah, there's an expectation level that's higher than 8-4. But I think it's a nuanced discussion now because of the contract and stuff. And I'll say this, just from talking to Jimbo, he gets that, and he's not happy with how the last 2 years. Somebody said, well, he's probably just, he doesn't care because they can just buy him out. That's not how he thinks. It's not how he got to where he got. I think half the reason he doesn't mention that he's turning over play calling to Petrino, even though Bobby is going to call plays, is because he's just that competitive and that, prideful about it and stuff. And I just think he's like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and I'm not going to sit here and explain it. And for better or worse, right? I think we all have our personality traits where you go, well, for better or worse.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't think there would be change at that. I'd be really disappointed, if they went from 5-7 to 7-5 because there's too much talent. There's too much talent. They've recruited too much talent. There's too much at stake, and it should be better.
Absolutely.
And I want to I don't want to get back to where they were. If they did what you said, if they went 10-2 to a New Year's Six bowl, I'd say, okay, this is a team that could contend for a national title in 2024, an
Right.
SEC title. That's what all this money, whether it's to Jimbo, whether it's to the facility, that's what all this is about. They're not doing that just to be the butt of everyone's jokes when they lose to App State, obviously. So
I want to ask you, because you mentioned Petrino. That's Jimbo better than anybody in this room. And it feels like every time that name comes up, there's a little bit of animosity or some. There's just something. He's just not coming out. Like we had Drink earlier this week. He says, "Hey, I'm releasing this offense to my new coordinator."
Freeze did the same, right?
Why are we not? Why do you think the reluctance? Is it the pride? You think with Jimbo?
I think it's all right. So I don't think it's animosity with Petrino, just from the simple. And I'm not saying they're going to get. Yeah, but I'm not saying they're going to get along perfectly either. I mean,
in big words, I throw them out there.
Me too. You're like our.
They don't always hit.
Our other co-owner Hunter, I always give him a hard time. He just makes up words, so I just call him words that I make up just to see if he starts using them, and he does. So it's pretty funny, but. No, I think obviously in a highly competitive situation, you're going to see they're going to Cameron will probably catch them having words. It might not take more than a couple games, but I think he's so excited about having. I know how fired up he is about Petrino. And don't forget, there's also Jim Chaney's on the staff now as an analyst, and enough people don't talk about that. I don't feel like when you look at his resume and his personality for any, he's an awesome dude. Like he's kind of he's kind of probably the guy that can step between and go. But you think about that room right now, and it's Jimbo, it's Petrino, it's Chaney, it's Steve Adazio, who's been head coach at 3 different spots. It's Coley, who's been an OC at Miami and Georgia. I think Jimbo's having a lot of fun right now. And even talking to like Coley and some of those other guys, I think there's a lot of fun in that offensive staff room where it all seems new and fresh, even though it's going to be very similar schematically. I think things like the formations and the pre-snap motion and the verbiage and the pace of play are what are going to change more than like what they're attempting to do philosophically. So why does he not say it? I don't know. And I think there's some level, and I'm not saying it's the way I would be, but I just think he's just going, I'm not going to tell. It's kind of like Nick Saban with, was it Maria Taylor? I'm not answering it, so stop it. I think it's almost like that, and you know how these coaches can be, and I think it's literally like the more you guys ask, the less I'm going to answer. And then he answered it to Feinbaum. I'm like, wait, what? Right before he left. It's like literally on the way out of town, sits down with Paul, and I don't even know that Paul, and he just boom, boom, and that was it.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, what just happened? So I don't know. I'm not a psychologist. I play one on TexAgs. So.
You mentioned Connor Wigman and quarterback rankings. I don't know if you've seen mine, but I put them out 4th of July.
Yeah.
And what I do, it's different. I'm not ranking them today. I'm projecting where they would rank at the end of the season.
Yep.
I have Connor Wigman as a top 5 quarterback in the SEC. Is that realistic, do you think, with Bobby Petrino, with what I think is the best receiving core in the SEC, with every experience on the offensive line, 5-star running back behind him, he's got all the pieces. Do you think he can be a top 5 quarterback in the SEC?
Yeah, I do. And to me, this is why you're good at what you do. And, there's probably a quarterback that you had 11 that their fan base is raging about. Mm-hmm. But you're looking ahead. You're showing some foresight with that, and you're going out on a limb that other people in the league haven't got. I feel like Connor. First of all, I will say this: Max Johnson had a really good spring.
Yeah.
This dude threw for 2,800 yards and 27 touchdowns and 6 picks at LSU. He beat Arkansas and Miami when A&M was at rock bottom last year. People are just completely forgetting about him. And even to a fault, I think even sometimes I don't talk about him enough.
Even at LSU, outdued Kyle Trask, outdued Matt Corral. Some big wins for LSU too.
Yeah, beat A&M, and it was, y'all watch that game, that was all him.
Yeah.
That was no one else on that. That was Max Johnson beat A&M. Mm-hmm. And then literally a couple weeks later, he's transferring. It's so weird today, right? But that battle's not over. I just think Connor's the future of the position in A&M, but he's gonna have to go out and win it because Max he pushed him all spring. I would call it dead even coming out of spring, but the way Connor finished the year, he's a 5-star himself, and beating LSU. And I know A-Chain ran wild, but go watch that game and some of the throws he made early and late. Mm-hmm. So the scramble on 3rd and 8 to outrun Perkins. Yeah, like. He played like and he is. He's a winner. He's a dog. And the players know that about him. But look, eight touchdowns, no turnovers last year. Last time we saw him, he's beaten LSU. He had the pedigree. I think he is probably the most slept-on quarterback in the league, your ranking notwithstanding. And I think 5's fair. I think that's somewhere in that 5 to 7 range. And to me, to start the year, I'd have him ahead of a lot of guys that people, have ahead of him. I don't know. If you go back and look at his game against Ole Miss, statistically, it's one of the best first starts by a true freshman in SEC history. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it was you that was putting that out. I was shocked to see it. Like, it was something in the 330-something yard range, right? 4 touchdowns, no turnovers, some rushing yards. It was like 400 yards of offense.
He had one
pretty
throw.
Insane.
A guy was about to hit him in the face. Defenders all around Evan Stewart. He put it where only he could do it. It was one of the most impressive throws I saw last year.
Yeah, and it's so much, and that's what I love about Wiggy is it's so much off field. And he got wiped out in that Ole Miss game. He got hit and really probably knocked out. I think on the next play threw a touchdown to Noah Thomas. He's tough. He's a tall dude. He's probably a little taller than me. I'm a little over 6'2". He's probably 6'3", but he's still had, he's you can tell he's still a kid that played baseball and didn't do a lot of weight rooms. But he's tough, but so instinctive. That's the thing I like at quarterback. Be instinctive. Just make plays. When he runs, he's more like Mahomes than Johnny, is he's running to get himself some room to throw it. And he can find guys off schedule, hit them on target, and gets rid of the ball really quickly. So if he wins that job and starts to come into his own, I'm excited about what he can do. Yeah.
We had someone on, Billy, this week. They said, you think SEC fans are arrogant? Just wait till this damn Texas comes into the league.
Yeah.
Can you give us and did you see, they're saying horns down, it's going to be a penalty, perhaps, in the SEC. Yeah. We're not going to let this bullshit fly, are we?
We don't need that shit. Like, we don't need – and I can tell all my Longhorn friends, I got so many of them, even some of the ones on Twitter that we go back – I like, it's all in love. But I hate them. I hate I hate Texas, and I hate – but I love the individuals. And so many of them come up to me and we say, hey, I'll battle it out with you on Twitter. It's all in fun, but damn, it's one of those rivals that – I hate the thought of losing to them more than I love the idea of beating them. It's that. So the SEC is getting a great rivalry with a lot of hate. And look, you're bringing back A&M Texas, OU Texas is coming in, Texas Arkansas.
Mm-hmm. Probably Oklahoma Missouri. That'll be a good one.
OU Missouri, and I think you're bringing in 2 of the 3. Egg Bowl will be in there too, but maybe 2 of the 3 best rivalries in the conference are going to be because of this move.
Yeah.
Aggies and Longhorns, and the Red River Shootout at the Cotton Bowl to go along with the Iron Bowl. Right. I mean, that's how big these are going to be. But yes, they are insanely arrogant. They think they're going to go. See, they think because they almost beat Bama that it's fine. Like, see that league's nothing. That league's nothing. Well. You almost beat Bama in one game, and then you went and played in the Big 12.
Right.
And you know how many games Bama's almost lost in the last 2 years? Probably like 8 or 9, 10 of them even, if you count the losses and the near misses.
Right.
And they go crazy about A&M and moral victories. And you go, you guys, this is the ultimate moral victory. A&M actually beat Bama a year ago. Well, we had if Quinn Ewers wouldn't got hurt, A&M beat him with a backup court. Like, they will never stop.
Right.
They will never stop, and you cannot beat them enough for them to be like humble or anything like. Think about this. They've ridiculed A&M for the last 12 years being in the league. It's overrated. It's top heavy. You guys haven't done anything. Then they come into the conference, and it's like they're planning the parade and the celebrations, and they can't wait to play at all these places that they've downplayed. The most hypocritical, arrogant fan base in, I would say, college sports, I would say in U.S. sports are the Longhorns. And God bless them because, like I said, some of my dear friends and some coaches on that staff I have the world of respect for. A couple of them have been at A&M.
Yeah.
Great dudes. But, yeah, man, screw them.
I mean,
I can't wait. I can't wait till the Aggies and Horns play it. I wanted it at Kyle Field just because you'd rather it be there than not.
Right.
But it doesn't matter where they play. I didn't want to play them while they were in the Big 12 because I just felt like you're throwing them a lifeline.
Yeah.
You look at their home schedule every year before. Now they're starting to add a big name. But even now, those home and homes are every other year. Yeah. So they play Bama at home. They don't anybody good at home this year. Next year they play, I don't know who it is. If it's Michigan or somebody. The year after that, it's nobody. They wanted A&M in there, so it would be Bama, A&M, Michigan, A&M, LSU. That's how they were teeing up. Why give them that? When you're in the SEC, you have the recruiting advantage with that. Why give them any help when if you split with them 1-1 or 2-2 over 4 years, they're winning.
Yeah.
Because the record's the same, but they're gaining an advantage by having that big game that they otherwise don't have. You don't need it with all your so I didn't like it then. Now I love it. And now I just wanted it to be a big stakes game. And with both of them in the SEC, it's a level playing field. I think Sark's doing a good job right now.
Is there a particular time of the season you'd like to see these? I mean, do you want this game one opener, or how would you like to?
Do what?
I've heard Thanksgiving's floating
That's
around.
what I like because as much as the LSU game, LSU fans don't want to call it a rivalry. I'm like, well, I want to talk about that and say, but I'd like it to be Thanksgiving just because of the history of it. And I'm a little bit nervous that in that first game they might try to make it week 1 or week 2 just because it's back. And I could see the SEC saying, man, let's just blow it out.
Yeah.
I wouldn't like that because that early in the season, teams aren't what they're going to become.
Right.
Thanksgiving, both those teams could be, 6-5, and it's a massive game.
Yeah, right.
God forbid if they're both. And by the way, you look at both their rosters, and Sark, I'm giving Texas a lot of shit, but Sark, he's doing, I think, an infinitely better job than Venables in terms of building his roster to be ready for this league. And that's because he's at Bama. Flood's been at Bama. Jeff Banks has been at Bama and A&M. Terry Joseph's been at A&M. He's got a staff that knows, like, if we don't go in there with a certain amount of talent, particularly in the trenches, it ain't going to go well. So I think they're doing a better job. That game could be, if A&M has the kind of season that you think they are, and that I hope they do, that 24 A&M Texas game could be among the biggest in this conference, not because of the rivalry, because of, like, what's at stake. So, but LSU, they don't think it's a rivalry. They'll tell you that. All our guys over here will say, we've had a premature Gatorade dump. We've had a fist fight on the sidelines. We've had, Coach Craig Thorpe, who's another Aggie guy and good friend of mine, but the thing with the pacemaker after that game, you had A&M storm the field. You had this year when A&M beats the brakes off of them as they have a chance to, reach the playoff. You have Joe Burrow on senior night getting his revenge and go, 50-3 on A&M, 7 overtimes. Do we need to keep going? Like Scott Woodward leaving, Jimbo Fisher, who they hate, and now he's 3-2 against LSU after A&M could never beat LSU. It's one thing after another. Hell, LSU just hired A&M's pitching coach. I can just keep going. It is absolutely a rivalry, and they don't want to they don't want to call it that, but damn, it's a rivalry. That's why Kendrick Rogers and I do the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
We call it the Make It a Cup podcast because they get so mad that they ain't made cups, which is silly. I get it. I don't own one of the cups, but they made 74, 72 cups, and I'm going, all right, it is. I wish they wouldn't have just because all the crap we catch, but
yeah,
it was like a historic game. It was like the
no
longest
doubt.
game ever. But still, the Cups, I know.
It went on so long.
I get it,
he
LSU.
fell asleep. He fell asleep.
Did you?
I did. I gave up. Yeah.
Tell you a funny story about that is Johnny, I was down on the field, and a buddy of ours has a suite up there, and it's quite the party suite, so I try to stay away from it during games since I'm working down there. So, but they're up there. Kellen throws the pick, and Johnny is in a race to get to the Chimmy's, the bar. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Interception, let's go. He said as soon as it was in the air, he knew it was a pick. He goes, come on. And everybody left.
Yeah.
They raced down to beat the traffic. They get to the bar, and he's like, they don't even know what happened. They don't even know that the knee was down. And they won't let him back into the stadium. And so they're out there watching the whole game, 7 overtimes from the bar and can't get back in. Pretty funny.
I was going to ask for a Manziel story, and you delivered, Billy. Last thing, real quick. Manziel documentary. I know you're close with Johnny. It's coming out. I assume you're in it. And can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah, I'm in it. I didn't know how much. They interviewed me after the first football game last year. It's almost a year ago. Really bad hair, but we're just going to plow through that. I wasn't ready for it. I was like, I had a hat, and they're like, oh, you can't wear a hat. And I'm going, why? I see documentaries, people, but I didn't want to. They were so good, and they're so. I mean, it was an incredible interview. They interviewed me, I think, for like 3 hours, and just. So then they call and say you made the cut. You're going to be in it. I think. I wouldn't say a lot, but I'm going to be in it more than just a quote, And so I'm excited to see it. I don't know where it's gonna go. I know who they interviewed and stuff. I get the feeling, and I have no idea, because I don't know if they would have divulged a little more or not, but I just feel like when you're dealing with those creatives, and they're such cool people, they did such a badass job with the Manti Te'o one. It's the same producers and everything. And so I didn't want to just push the limits of how much I could. I was just grateful that they included me, and we provided them with a lot of footage from TexAgs. So I think the vibe, what I think it kind of will be is more of a, this was this magical little moment in time where everything just kind of came together for this guy, and what was it about that place at that time that allowed this to happen? And I could be totally wrong, but for a player that didn't sniff any professional success 10 years later, he still moves the needle.
Yeah.
I meant to bring it up to Paul. It was 10 years ago. Where are we going into the 23 season? 10 years ago, right now, going into the 13 season, right? Was that circus that this place was when Johnny missed the Manning camp or got kicked out of Manning camp a couple days earlier, and comes into media day, and Paul would say it, and everybody said the only thing that was comparable was when Tebow came through before his last year at Florida, and it was an absolute circus. And 10 years later, he does still move the needle. And it was so interesting because how he played the game, and to me, like how he went about living his life, a party life. Let's call it that. He's not out there hurting. He's like a little brother. I mean, he's a great dude.
We lived
but
it too, just on a different scale.
Yeah, same, right? Everybody does it to scale. I've had plenty of I've had friends that are a lot wilder than Johnny. I've had friends that are close friends of mine that when in their college days were assholes. They were really mean, like beating people up, and so like football people. But Johnny wasn't that. He just pushed it to the limits of having fun, and he understood the access he had at his fingertips, and it kind of coincided with social media. Had he been 10 years earlier, he's not connecting with Drake and LeBron and having people DM him, or he knew I can tweet that I'm going to be at this concert, and there's a chance that artist or their right-hand guy or something are going to message me and say, hey, come backstage, or how many passes. He figured that out real quickly, and that's a lot on a kid that at the time was literally 19 turning 20. So but I think Johnny's I know he's looking forward. He's probably like, I wonder how this is going to play out. I think he's seen it. I haven't even talked to him about that, but I talked to him a couple weeks ago prior, and he's like, it's 10 years in, man. I'm about to be 30. This is the perfect way to kind of close that chapter.
Yeah.
And he's not ashamed of it. He's proud. He's like, that was a legendary run.
It was a hell of a run.
He said that to me. He's like, that was legendary. The legend of that will never die. He's like, but it's 10 years later. He's in a good spot, and he's like, it's a perfect way just to kind of close that chapter for him personally. So I'm excited to see it. I'm really excited about that Florida one too.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be good.
Yeah.
All right, Billy. Everybody knows who you are, but can you tell the audience, in case they don't know, where can they find you?
Yeah, TexAgs.com is our site, and all things A&M. But we talk about everything SEC over there. Because again, it's another beauty about this league is everybody cares about everybody. Yeah. We all hate everybody. We all love everybody. We all care about. On Twitter, it's at Billy Luicci. Same on Instagram, but I'm kind of boring on there. That's just my little vacation stories or whatever. But yeah, at Billy Luicci on Twitter, LIUCCI.
I really appreciate it, Billy. That was
great.
great,
man.